everyone, and welcome to another interview for Extraordinary Latinas. I'm your host, Ileana Rojas, and today I'm very excited and grateful to welcome Cristina Costa. Cristina, you are a powerful Latina, passionate about empowering people, and especially women of color, to build the skills and confidence to succeed. You're a natural-born connector who lives her purpose every day to build inclusive spaces for all to thrive. You're a go-getter who is not afraid to take on new challenges, building processes and initiatives from scratch, especially in the area of tech, where there is still an important gap for women to thrive. You're an inspiring and extraordinary Latina, and it's such an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much, Ileana. That's like the nicest introduction ever. We could just stop right there. No, I really thank you. I appreciate it. And hearing it from you, coming from you, is even more powerful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to start by asking you to share with us your story. Like, where did it all start?
Oh my God. So I was born, no, I'm playing. So where did it start? I would say, ever since a very young age, I remember even in middle school, just always kind of being a leader and an advocate. Like if I remember, I'll never forget this. In 7th grade, I had a science teacher and I was really good at science. I was actually a nerd. I'll put it out there. I was a nerd. I loved science and math. And in 8th grade, I had a science teacher who just was not a great teacher, and he did not give us enough time to do our project for the science fair. And the year previous to that, I had actually won 1st place in the school science fair and 3rd place in the regional science fair. So I was like really serious about science fairs. So I remember in 8th grade, he told us, okay, maybe like 2 weeks before that it was due. And I was like, that's not enough time for me to put something amazing together, right? So instead of kind of just adhering and being like, sure, like I'm just gonna do that, I told my mom. And I remember telling my mom, like, I don't think this is fair. This doesn't seem like enough time. I really want, to do well and do a good job. And I'm not gonna be able to do that in 2 weeks. And the rest of my classmates were also like, this is not fair. So I actually went with my mom to go speak to the teacher. So my mom was kind of that first like huge advocate that I saw in my life who would always stand up for things. And so she went to the teacher and got him to give us an extra, I think 2 weeks. I think we got like almost 4 weeks to do the project in the end. So from that moment forward, I was like, oh, so you can like advocate for yourself. Okay, you can like, things don't have to just be the way they are. So from then on, I was always doing, I started my first job. I was a camp counselor at a program called Talented and Gifted Latino Youth Program. Going on to college, I was involved in the organization of Latino American Affairs at Boston College, which was all about advocacy for Latinos in the university. And then I also went on to be president of the Brazilian Club. So I'm half Brazilian, half Guatemalan. And so for me, it was always kind of like very natural to want to empower people and help, especially the Latino community, especially the community of color. So moving fast forward, after working I started off as a teacher for a few years, went into higher education, then pivoted into tech. When I joined tech, my first job was at PayPal. And I remember I was the only Latina on the entire organization in Boston. And there was only maybe one other woman of color. She was a Black woman who was my friend. She's the one who got me in. And I remember being like, okay, there needs to be more of us in these spaces. Tech is not going anywhere. This is, if anything, is going to get bigger and take over more. And I want to be that bridge. So I went on to, when I left PayPal, I ended up working at HubSpot and founded their first employee resource group, which is the people of color at HubSpot, which still exists to this day, actually, super proud of that. And then I also went on to co-found Women with Purpose. So Women with Purpose was a nonprofit organization that I led for about 5 years. And the whole reason for Women with Purpose was professional development workshops for women of color, to really empower and equip women with skills that you never learn anywhere else, right? No one teaches you how to negotiate for your salary. No one teaches you how to start an employee resource group at your company. No one teaches you about emotional and mental health and how to set boundaries or financial literacy. So there's just a lot of education out there that I felt inclined that I had learned from mentors, from parents. I just felt very fortunate and privileged, and I wanted to share that with other people. So that's kind of what forged my path into wanting to always advocate for people, empower people. And then fast forward, now I do career coaching. And that's essentially all of it in a nutshell, right? It's actually meeting with the people who want, to better themselves, who are looking for some guidance and some support, for someone to listen to them and maybe just show them the way, not necessarily show them how to do it, but show them tools to get to where they want to be. So that's really how I feel. I've kind of gone full circle. Did I answer your question?
I mean, I know we know each other now.
I started with some great.
I love your story, and I think one of the things that's most admirable is exactly that it's a non-linear career path, right? From the get-go, many of us feel that careers have to be linear, or we believe that they are linear, and you're a perfect example of they really don't have to, and actually you can get a lot of richness from taking things that we learn from all those different paths to get to where you are today. But I also imagine that through those different paths and shifts and changes, you've gone through struggles and hurdles and that like moment of what am I doing and where am I going? If you can talk a little bit more about and share about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've had those moments so many times. So I feel, when I graduated college, I had a degree in marketing and communications, Latin American studies minor. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I was like, okay, I guess all my internships have been in advertising and marketing, so I guess I'll do marketing, and that's what I was thinking. And then I ended up actually moving abroad and teaching English for 3.5 years after college, mainly because I graduated in 2009 when there was a recession. It was really bad. There were no jobs here, especially for young grads. So I was like, let me go find a job in another country. So I ended up living in Japan and lived there for 2 years. And then I was in Spain for about 1.5 years. And during that time, I was traveling. I was just meeting so many amazing people, learning about different cultures. And that's really where I think my love and passion for learning about other cultures and how other people live really started. And it really expanded my mind. And I do recommend, if anyone out there, if you can travel, do so as much as possible, because we're not trees. We're not meant to just live in one place and stay in one place. Like, we have legs for a reason, right? Go explore the world. Go see what's out there and see how other people live, because that can really expand your own horizons and viewpoints for yourself. So, after I came back, I thought I wanted to do an MBA. I will actually share this story because I'm not ashamed of it. So I thought I wanted to do an MBA because all my friends were doing graduate school. No one had, it was still a recession. It was still not great. So I decided, I guess I'm going to do an MBA program. I'll do international business. I speak all these languages. I guess that's what I'm going to do. Didn't talk to anyone who does international business. Just had no idea, right? I just was like, I'm going to do that. So I ended up getting a job at Northeastern University as an international student advisor because I wanted to go to school for free. I didn't want to pay for school. So I started the MBA program at Northeastern, and I realized very quickly that I did not enjoy a lot of those classes. Accounting, finance, not for me. But then I would take a class like HR, and I absolutely loved that class and excelled at that class. And then I realized, that social, that sociology, like people operations, psychology, those are the things that really sparked me. And those are the things that got me really excited. So I ended up actually dropping out of the MBA program, realizing it wasn't a good fit for me. And at that time, all my international students were from India and China, literally almost all of my work study students. And they were all engineers. And they were all studying computer science or information systems. And I remember all of them telling me, oh, so I got my first job offer. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing? They're like, oh, I'm going to be working at Facebook making $100,000. And I was like, what? Doing what? And they were like working at Facebook or working at Google or working at LinkedIn or wherever. And I was like, okay, I need to do that. Whatever that is, that's what I need to do. And that's essentially what made me go into tech. that's what made me pivot into tech, because I realized, there was not a lot of room for growth, at least in higher education, unless I wanted, to get my master's or go for a PhD or something like that. And I realized I really wanted to learn more and see what was out there. So I will say it was a stepping stone that I'm glad that I took, and I'm glad I followed my intuition. But I will say, like, there have been many moments in my career where I've been navigating and just trying to figure out, like, my friends, Ileana, always make fun of me. They say, Christina's had like every job, because I really kind of really have. And I think it was because I was really discovering what actually energized me and what didn't. And instead of taking the time that I think most people don't, to really understand yourself intrinsically and inside, and really understand who you are on a deep level. Like, what are your strengths? What are your natural abilities? What are your interests? What gives you energy? What depletes your energy? I wasn't there yet. I was young, and I was kind of trying to figure it out on my own. And so I was doing trial by error. I was like, that looks like a cool job, I'm gonna try and do that. Then I would do it, and I was like, this is not for me, but I like this aspect of the job. So I want something that still kind of does this, but maybe does more community engagement stuff now, or like more working with students in a different capacity. So really just like navigating different spaces until I really realized that what gave me passion, and then what gave me energy, and what made me like really happy and glow, was seeing other people succeed. So like when I would do my Women with Purpose events, I wasn't being paid for that. That I was doing outside of work, my full-time job, and I was like taking classes as well. So I was doing that outside of all of that, without being paid, but feeling so fulfilled by that work. Every time we had a workshop, every time a woman would tell me, that was really powerful, I never learned something like that anywhere else. And building that community of women of color who were all supportive of each other, who all just wanted to see each other succeed and be there for one another, and get rid of that competitive kind of feeling that a lot of women of color, I think, have in the corporate space. So that's when I realized, I was like, wow, this is what gives me energy, right? But it took me a while to get to find it.
But I think you touch on several points, but the ones that I take as very important, because I've lived through them and I see it again and again, is that you haven't been afraid, or at least you've overcome that fear of making those tough decisions, because I think those are the ones where many of us paralyze. And then not only you're afraid, but you keep like not moving forward. And in your case, in your story, you share several moments where, well, yes, this is like a challenging moment, but let's figure it out, and let's see, what results from it. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's not the right fit, like your MBA story, right? But you still moved forward. No one is telling you what you should or shouldn't have done. Like, you've been there, done that, know what it is, and to tell a story. And then the other thing is about not being afraid to ask questions. I think a lot of us, and especially as women, and especially as Latinas, again, I don't want to stereotype, but many of us share that fear of asking questions, and feeling that we need to have all the answers, or that we don't want to ask for help, because we're supposed to, do things on our own. And how are we going to ask for help? And it feels like those two have been pivotal in helping you get to where you are right now.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I wouldn't even say necessarily asking questions, but I think one thing I've learned is not to ask for permission. I think that's been huge. I've seen this with now, like, I've now coached hundreds of people, right? From all walks of life, women, men, people who are younger than me, people who are older than me, all from all backgrounds, all ethnic backgrounds, right? And one thing I've noticed, especially with women of color, is this need to always ask for permission to do something, and validation. And that's something that I learned for myself. So I'll share a really short story of how the world goes around, right? So when I was working at HubSpot, I helped, like I said, I helped build their first employee resource group, which was called POCA. And at that time, DEI was not like diversity and inclusion was not like a thing. Like it was very much very new. This was 2015. It was kind of starting to become a thing, but it wasn't like it is now, right? Where everybody has a DEI leader or something at their organization. So I remember that we started this movement. It was 3 of us, and we started inviting the C-suite to attend. We started the COO, CPO, Katie Burke, who's Chief People Officer. She started attending and paying attention to it and realized that this was actually needed at the organization. And then the first role was opened. It was a culture program manager role was opened. And it was super exciting because it was the first time they had any role like this, right? I was excited. I was like, I'm going to apply. I should at least get an interview as an internal candidate. I applied, didn't even get an interview, which for me was like, how? Like I helped build this, right? Like I don't have, DEI HR experience, but like this is still valuable, the experience that I do have. So that made me feel, very disappointed. And obviously, like, I did not stay much longer after that. And then during that whole time, I was running Women with Purpose, right? So fast forward, I want to say 4 years later, HubSpot reaches out for a DEI manager position to me. And I was like, so now I have the experience. I have enough experience now to work there. So it was just a very ironic kind of like karma thing where like they weren't going to give me the experience because they said I didn't have the experience. So then I had to make the experience for myself without asking for permission, without asking someone for validation. Like I did it for myself. And that's something that I want, a message that I give to my clients and anyone I work with is like, you don't need to always ask for permission. If there's something that ignites you, is something inside you that you have a passion for, just go out there and start doing it. There's, obviously if it's like you want to be a doctor or something, yes, you got to go to medical school, right? But if it's something like, maybe you're really passionate about a certain, I don't know, like cause, maybe you want to start raising money for something, or maybe there's like a nonprofit that you really want to support because you love the work that they're doing. Do it, right? You don't need to wait for someone to invite you. You can start just doing it yourself. Small things here and there, right? And then eventually you'll gain momentum. People will start, being attracted to your energy. I'm a huge believer in karma, and the energy you put out gets returned. And so you just got to start. So I feel like you're very similar too, Ileana, in that way.
Yes, we definitely are. And I love what you mentioned about not having or not being recognized for experience or acknowledged for certain experience, but that did not stop you, and you figured out a way to gain that experience in a different, forum, space, whatever it was. And then you get recognition for that. And I think that's so important because sometimes we just give up and we're like, well, if nobody gives me the opportunity, then how am I supposed to gain experience? And we don't think outside of the box in terms of, well, it doesn't have to be here. I can do other things to gain that experience. And I think that's so important.
Yeah.
You've been such a powerful voice for others, especially for women of color, and especially in the area of tech and STEM. However, sometimes being such a powerful voice for others can cause your voice to sort of get lost within all the noise. How do you keep that voice, up loud, and what has helped you elevate it, all these years?
Yeah. So I will say one thing about me that everyone who knows me well, like you, Ileana, anyone who knows me well knows that I am always 100% authentic and genuine. And that has caused me to also be let go from places and not be a culture fit in certain places. And, because I will always be like I said, I'm a natural born advocate. And I really do think it comes from my upbringing, it comes from my mom also being that person and just seeing her be so genuine and authentic in her beliefs and in what she believes is right. And so I'm very similar. I definitely don't fall far from that tree. So I think for my voice, it's always been, I always uplift others with a lot of the things that I post. So, I don't really like to gloat or talk about my accolades or whatever is happening. I really like to share resources and, you know, events or workshops or trainings or whatever is out there that could really help someone else. Those are the things, if you follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn or anything like that, especially LinkedIn, you'll see I'm always sharing other people's um, resources because I think, I don't see people as competition. I think there's room for all of us. I think there's room for all powerful Latina women to have a seat at the table. And so for me, it's always uplifting other people's voices. And I think because I've done that, so openly without asking for anything in return or without being like, hey, if I post this, will you post this? I think I've just always been genuine. And so people appreciate that. And they will then, share my resources as well because I've been doing that for so long, just genuinely trying to put, helpful helpful resources for people of color, especially and especially in the tech and STEM space, because I mentioned to you that there's just such a lack of diversity in there, and just really a lack of knowledge is really what it comes down to. When I've spoken at a lot of events, whether that's at General Assembly or HubSpot or wherever it may be, I always talk about how in a lot of Latino households, our families, like maybe our older generations, don't even know about technology, right? They know, for the most part, what I've seen, they know about healthcare, education, finance, business, and law, right? That's kind of like the main career paths people know about, but there are not a lot of engineers. I know you're one, Ileana, which I'm always impressed by how you're an engineer. I love that. But there's not a lot of Latina engineers, at least not in the US. And so I think that comes down to just a lack of knowledge in our communities. And I think it also does come down to our public school systems not having the best STEM programs. And I will be a testament to that. Like I mentioned earlier in the interview, I loved STEM. I loved science and math when I was young. And literally, I think it was 10th grade, I had a physics teacher who made me hate science. Like I hated it. Like I almost failed his class. And I was an honor roll student, right? So I was like, it was a physics class. I just hated it. He was a terrible teacher. And it really turned me off to science and math. And since then, I didn't really want to take any more, honor classes or AP classes. I remember I was put in AP calculus and I refused. I actually like begged my parents to take me out because I just didn't feel like I could do it. And I really think it started from that just lack of good resources and mentors in the STEM area. So that's something I'm a huge advocate for because I see, number one, engineers are always going to be in demand. It doesn't matter when it is or what's going on. Like people are always going to need engineers. So there's always going to be a demand and high demand and good paying demand for engineers. So it's a stable career. And I want more women, especially women of color, to be in that space. So that's why I'm always sharing things. I'm always genuine because that's ultimately what I want for other people.
That you bring up such an important point in terms of mentors and having somebody that really helps us see things and can pivot us both ways, to your point, to loving something or to hating something. But still, it's so important for us to surround ourselves from people that are aligned with our values and with what we're passionate about, so that then they can bring that out from us. You do a lot of things. You wear so many hats, not only because of your experience through your career, but just in general, because the kind of energy that you love to have, and the impact that you want to create. How do you balance it all, and how do you still have time for you?
That is such a good question, because I am still in the midst of figuring that out. And so that is especially, I think, in this remote COVID world where it's so difficult right now to have a clear linear, like, this is work, this is home life, right? Everything's kind of intersected now, since, remote work has taken over. So for me, to be honest, so running my career coaching business is, it's new. I launched November of last year. So it's been 8-9 months, which is crazy to think about. But when you're starting a new business, it takes up a lot of time. So really trying to set time for that, as well as, I'm also leading a career program at a nonprofit, an ed tech nonprofit called Parachute Bridge, and we specifically run career development programs for first generation college graduates, as well as young professionals of color on the job search. So also running that program, which hand in hand helps with my coaching business as well, because it's similar content. So it's been really great being able to kind of serve even more people through that nonprofit, and like young people who really, really need this type of support. I wish I had this kind of program when I was 21, 22, graduating college, and had no idea what I was going to do with my life. So it's just a really awesome opportunity. And then a lot of little projects. I'm just like, I'm the kind of person that if I find great people to work with, and it's something that I think aligns with my mission, and if I can collaborate in some way and use my natural abilities, which in my opinion, I think public speaking, I definitely think training and development, definitely diversity and inclusion. So psychological safety in the workplace is huge for me. That's something that I think I'm very passionate about, and making psychologically safe spaces for people, as well as helping people on their own paths. So helping people on their career paths, their job search. Maybe they're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe they don't know where to start. Maybe they want to pivot their careers. Maybe they're looking to get a promotion, right? There's so many different things, so many goals people have for themselves. So I think for me, it's just like, I wear so many hats, because so many different things give me energy, and align with that mission of empowering people of color to succeed. Because that's really what the mission is, ultimately.
It's been such a pleasure speaking with you, learning more about you every time that we talk, and hearing about your extraordinary story as a woman, as a Latina. Thank you so much for being here today. And I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Me too. And I look forward to having even more amazing projects with you, Ileana. I
still have
to you.
a long list of things to do.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.